Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining. I noticed on the schedule that Colonel Boyd also has a session on track 5 called 6 Practical Ways to Manage Stress. And it seems to me somehow we probably should have combined that with the WMIRS Comm Log, and it might have made a lot of sense. So let me pull up the slides, and we'll see if we can get this machine to work here. Now, can anybody see a slide deck coming up?
Yes.
Yeah, Mike.
Yes.
Okay, does that look good?
Yes.
Okay, thanks very much. I can't see what I'm getting. I can only see what I'm sending. So I'm Mike Collette. I'm the comm guy for Utah Wing. And we're going to talk about the comm log in WMIRS today. Every time I think I know everything about the comm log, I run into something or on a mission, or I run into a question and I learn something new. So today's kind of a compilation of everything I think I know about the comm log. And then those of you that are also using it, feel free to jump in with comments or suggestions or questions. So the WMIRS Comm Log, what is WMIRS anyway? I mean, you hear this term all the time. Well, it's officially the Web Mission Information and Reporting System. It's the online system that CAP uses to manage exercises and missions. One component of WMIRS is the comm log. We're probably most of us used to keeping paper logs of communications, the comm log. And the comm log in WMIRS is simply an electrical version of doing that. The nice thing about it, it's available in real time to everyone logged in the mission. It provides a nice chronological record of the communications that we have with our field resources, primarily radio communications, be they aircraft, ground teams, or other CAP radio stations. And we're going to get into this in a little more depth, but here's the picture of the comm log from e-services and from WMIRS. So to get in, we first log into e-services, your CAP ID and the password and the little CAPTCHA, I'm not a robot, and we sign in to e-services, and it takes us to this page. And you scroll down clear to the bottom, and you'll see these Civil Air Patrol sites, e-services, WMIRS, communications, etc. So you want to click on WMIRS, the Web Management or Mission Information System. So then you'll get a field that looks something like this. You might necessarily see the missions you want down here. If you don't, you'll have to search for them. You'll go up to this pull-down menu in Wing and Region, select Utah, select Open Missions, either put the mission number in if you know it, or the date range, say last week's date to this date. And then you'll get a list of currently open missions. And for the training today, I'm going to select on our most recent SAR training mission, Gold Pointer 3, which is 21T4306. So you'll click on that mission number, and it will take you to this page. In order to make a comm log entry, you have to be logged into the mission, because the comm log will record who the comm log entry is coming from, and if you're not logged in, it's not listening to you. So you go down here and click on Planning, and that takes you to this page, and you go into the Sign In, Sign Out. So click on that, and then you'll go up here where it says Sign In New Personnel. Now, if you've signed into the mission on previous days and signed out again, you may or may not be listed in here as a current member or a signed out member. So presume you need to sign in. Personnel up here will normally be highlighted, so you're signing in yourself, not an airplane or a vehicle. So you'll click on Sign in New Personnel. And then you'll type in your CAP ID number and click on the little magnifying glass, and then the screenshot will populate with your personal information. So then you, from the pull-down menu, select Staff Assignments, and the qualifications that you currently have active in your 101 card will appear in this window. So if you're the MRO or MSA or CUL, select the staff assignment, put in your current contact number, an emergency contact number and name, and then you can go ahead and sign in. Oh, let's see, you'll want to select the facility. We'll talk about that a little bit because it wants to know where you're operating from in the mission. And if the facility has already been identified, it will be available in the pull down menu when you click the little down arrow here. But if you're operating, say, from your home station, it's probably not likely in here, and you're going to have to add that as a new mission facility. And in this case, you know, I'm talking mostly to communicators here, a communications facility. And if you want to put personal equipment here, that's more germane to folks that are going to be on an air crew or a ground team, and not too important for somebody that's operating from your home station. So to select a new facility, here's the pull down menu on the mission with what's set up right now. So again, select the communications facility that you'll be operating from. So we'll go back to add facility. If you don't see your facility here or your home station, you'll have to add it to the drop down menu so you can select it then. You can't just type it in, unfortunately. So when you hit the add facility button, you'll get this screen. Was that a question?
That was a question, Mike, real quick. Did I not hear the other night that mission facilities would only be the location where the incident commander is located? So in other words, I wouldn't put anything in there unless I was going to be where the IC was. Is
that you, Tom?
Yeah, it's that troublemaker, Tom, yeah.
Okay, great, because I can't see names with my slides open. It sounded like your voice. Yeah, that's a fair question. What we were talking about is when we call something mission base as opposed to Salt Lake base or Spanish Fork base, something like that. We used to use the term mission base all the time, but we've now standardized on it. We'll use the term mission base and then indicate if it's Salt Lake mission base or Spanish Fork mission base, Richfield mission base. We'll use that term if the IC, the incident commander, is physically present at that location. That's what establishes it as the mission base. Does that make sense, Tom?
Actually, yes, that does. Thank you.
You betcha. Thanks for the question. So in adding the facility, we'll just type in what it is. In this case, home station, incident communication center. Again, that's a selection from the drop-down menu. Location, in this case, Park City, Utah. The point of contact, email address, phone number, and then which radio communications repeaters you have access to. And then you'll click Add Facility. And when you do that, look at that, home station now pops up there, and you can select that. And again, we're still signing into the mission. So select your home station and then go ahead and complete the mission sign in. Now we're going to go to the comm log. So up under command, we were in planning before and sign in and sign out. Now we're going to go up to command and open the comm log. Just click on comm log. I'm going to mention this and we'll circle back and talk about it in a few minutes. But you'll notice in the time that's highlighted in blue that says Mountain Daylight Time. That's a clickable link where you can select whether you're on Mountain Daylight Time, Mountain Standard Time, or GMT or Zulu time. Now it's the prerogative of the incident commander which time zone is going to be used in WMIRS to log the mission information. It's important to use local time rather than Zulu time like we've typically done on a comm logs. In WMIRS, use local time, and we'll explain why in just a few minutes. So use local time if it's not already defaulting to local time. Check with the IC or the communications unit leader if that's on any other time other than local time, just to raise the issue. So as we've mentioned before, and you can see the log entries down here, oldest and the newest up on top, a chronological record of communications with the field resources, the aircraft, the ground teams, and other CAP radio stations. And you'll see here some entries from March 20th from several different folks who were signed in at the time. And you'll see the different comm entries that are made. And these are chronological and they're time-stamped at the time the entry was made or the time the entry was entered. So the latest entry is on top. So we're starting to see the actual comm log itself. So let's go through creating a log entry. Number one, enter the call sign of the station you are talking to, not your own call sign, but the call sign of the station you're talking to. When you click on the log entry, WMIRS already knows that you're logged in and who you are. And so it will log you as the station making the contact. And so what the world needs to know is who it is you're talking to. In this case, an aircraft, CAP 4359. Enter, and this is the one thing that's different, enter your own call sign only if the log entry pertains to your own station and you're not talking to someone else, such as opening the net, closing the net, or closing your station. In that case, you're not talking to another station, so use your own call sign. This is High Desert 4 in this case. So again, the station you're talking to normally, unless you're just making a comment or a log entry on your own station, and then you'd use your own call sign. Number two, enter the channel designator of the radio channel you're using, in this case, R47 repeater. Now, channel reference can be a pull-down menu. If the communications unit leader has pre-populated the mission database with the radio channels listed in the ICS 205, that's something we haven't been in the habit of doing, and something we'll probably get a little bit better at doing as we get the comm log understood. If you go ahead and enter in the mission information, the different radio channels, those will all be available by pull-down menu. Again, a time saver. Otherwise, just type in R47 if that's the repeater you're talking on. Number three, if the comm entry is from an aircraft or a ground team, then you need to enter the appropriate sortie number. And this is really important because the comm log is also used to update the status board to give the Air Operations Branch Director and the IC and the Ops Chief a status on whether or not an aircraft or a ground team is overdue on any of their operational reporting. So you enter the sortie number. Well, how do you find the sortie number? In the old days, operating in wing headquarters, we just run around through the door and we look at the whiteboard and we grab the sortie number and then we'd run back in and plug it in. Or you start keeping a little list, which is really a good thing to do. So let's talk about making it a little bit easier to remember what the sortie number is when we hear that call sign and associate the sortie number, the appropriate sortie number, the current sortie number, with the call sign, because that aircraft may have flown 3 sorties that day. So here's a hint. Build yourself a cross-reference table of sorties and call signs from the air sorties and ground sorties list in the mission. And how do you find those? Well, again, in the mission information here, Under command, I have clicked on current missions, and now I can select on edit and view air sorties or edit or view ground sorties. So if I click on edit view air sorties right here, I get the list of, I've selected all sorties for the mission. These are all the air sorties. They're not necessarily in chronological order, but they've got the aircraft. They'll have information over here that I didn't copy in on the aircraft commander, and the call sign. So the sortie number here and the call sign here. So here's my little list that I put on a little yellow sticky note, and I paste it in front of my computer screen. The sortie number and the cap call sign. And so I've done the sortie 1, 2, 6, 17, 6, and 7, and the particular call sign. You can see that cap 4390 is flying 4 different sorties, and cap 4323 is flying 2 different sorties. So how do we sort that out? Well, let's add the ground sorties first. So now let's go over to the ground sorties. Let me go back a couple pages. So now you would go back and click on edit view sorties, ground sorties. So now you have the ground sorties, G1, 2, 3, 4, etc. So down here at the bottom, I've added the ground sorties, High Desert 8308, Strike Team 1, and High Desert 8321. So now I have a handy list I can use on the comm log. When I see a station call in, I instantly can go over and see what sortie number that is. Well, how do I know which is the current sortie? Well, cross out the sorties as they're completed, so you can more easily pair the current sortie with the unit call sign. So now we can see if cap 4323 calls in, we can use sortie alpha 17. If cap 4390 calls in, we can use sortie alpha 7. If strike team 1 calls in, we know it's ground sortie number 4. So this is just a little, this is not something electronic. This is just something you do on a little sticky note or a sheet of paper that you tape it up on your computer monitor. So you always have a quick reference, because all you'll hear is the call sign coming in on the radio. And now you'll be able to pick the sortie number to get your comm log entry started. Now sometimes, if it's really busy mission, you'll pair up and you'll have 2 people operating. One will be doing the comm log and keeping a written comm log like we always do. In case there's a power bump or in case your connection times out, you'll always have a written record that you can refer back to and catch up. So it's really important to keep a written comm log, and then yourself or have a mission staff assistant make the actual electronic comm log entries in WMIRS off your written log. If it isn't a sortie, then you can select not a sortie in the pull-down menu. And here are the remarks. We got information from the ops officer that High Desert 7 on channel R47 that November 358 Charlie Papa is due for an oil change in 3 flight hours, and we want to make sure everybody is aware of that, so they know they can't schedule that airplane for sorties for the next 2 or 3 days, because after the next sortie, it might be down for an oil change. So you can enter not a sortie. Now we want to enter the mission type. Let me pause just because we're moving kind of faster, but let me pause and see if there's any questions so far. And again, feel free to break in and holler if a question comes up, if there's something that's not completely clear to you. So message type, these are pre-populated. We can't modify this, unfortunately. Actual time of arrival, in other words, wheels down, actual time of departure, wheels up, bearing report, first heard, silenced, ETA, estimated time of arrival, in grid normally, or at target, objective confirmed, objective located, ops check, that's ops normal check, a position report, a return to base, radio check, time in assigned area, time out of assigned area. So in this case, we're going to select time in assigned area. because the message is, the remarks we're going to type in is Cat 4359 reports in grid, Salt Lake City Alpha 359, or 359 Alpha, that should be. If entering, we're going to circle back to that. If entering a position report, you select position report rather than ops report, you're going to have to do something else now. So if you don't have an exact lat long, just select ops check rather than position report, and it'll make your life easier. And then maybe just manually type in the approximate location of the aircraft. When you type in position report, you'll see this little red prompt pop up here, lat long or landmark required. You'll either have to list the lat long, or the next little button over here you don't see is a landmark, where you can click that and they enter, intersection of I-15 and I-70 or something like that. So you click on position report, then you're going to have to type in the position, and you're going to select the format you're going to be typing the position in using. Decimal degrees or degrees and decimal minutes, which is the format here that I've used, which is the easiest, the format we've chosen to use, because that's the way the information is entered in the system of the G1000 in the aircraft. So latitude and longitude, degrees, and then decimal minutes, degrees and decimal minutes. Now, you'll notice when you click on enter, after you put the remarks in, that regardless of what you select here, decimal degrees or degrees and decimal minutes, it always pops up in the comm log as decimal degrees. Why that is, I don't know. I've raised the question with national headquarters. I've not heard an answer back. But anyway, if you select the position report type of message, you'll have to enter in the lat long. So here now are the remarks we'll type in. Cap 4359 reports in grid Salt Lake City, and again, it should be 359 Alpha instead of Alpha 359. That's my mistake. It's just a typo. And since I was actually live in the comm log in this mission, creating these screenshots, I added this test message for training, since it wouldn't be confused with an actual mission entry. Since this is a gold pointer 3 that I'm entering this information in. So time and assigned area, aircraft, channel number, sorting number, time and assigned area, and the remarks. So that's number 6. Number 7, now the time. Now you can use the current time, which appears in the comm log. This time is constantly being updated while you're logged into WMIRS and into the comm log. So that will show the current time that you're going to make the entry. Now what I do is I find a way to put the actual time in here that the aircraft reported in, because that's what updates the status board. And so if the aircraft reported in grid at say 10:05, and I'm now just making the log entry at 10:09, I will click in here on the minutes tab on the pull down and adjust this to 10:05 before I click enter, update and return to comm log. So I will update that on the exact time that the aircraft or the ground team did what they are reporting that they did. Otherwise, if I'm just doing an informational entry, might as well just use the current time. So is that clear? This is the current time that you're going to enter as you click on it. If you want to report a time that happened a few minutes earlier, you can just manually edit this and report the exact time that the aircraft reported being in grid 359. Then hit submit. So we've got call sign, channel reference. You're already logged into the mission number, so that's pre-populated. Sorting number, message type. In this case, now it's an ops check. Ops normal, Cap 4353. The time. You've already selected the home station when you logged in, because this is your log entry. So you hit submit log entry. Voila! The newly created log entry shows up in the comm log, highlighted in yellow for about 10 seconds, and then it goes either light gray or light blue. You know, every other one is a different color. So this is confirmation that your log entry has been accepted. See, at 10:09, last updated by myself on April 7th at 10:09. Sorting number, this is a comm entry, time and assigned area, the call sign. See what happens now if you didn't put the right call sign in here? We wouldn't know, going back through the log and the chronological record of the mission, who it was that was in the assigned area at 10:09. So it's really important. And it's also verified here in the remarks as well. And this was entered from my home station. That's the comm log. Now, can someone tell me, if you click the submit log entry and nothing happens, what the problem is? Can somebody tell me what that problem is? If you click submit and nothing happens.
Oh, I can, Mike.
Sure, go ahead.
Voice of experience here.
Yes.
It means that WMIRS has logged you out, and not out of the out of the mission, but rather has logged you out of WMIRS.
That is true, and there's nothing on here on this screenshot to tell you that's happened, and it will let you go ahead and enter all the information to your heart's content, smiling as it lets you enter all that information. You'll hit submit, and then you've realized it's timed out and you've got to do it all over again.
Yeah,
Now,
the other possibility, Mike, the other possibility is that I forgot to sign into the mission to begin with. I've entered all of this information, hit the submit button, it won't do anything.
But it will tell you you're not signed into the mission if that happens.
Yeah.
It'll tell you. Colonel Wellman, are you listening? Because I'm going to tap you for an input if you're listening. He has a hint that he's mentioned to me before, that there's a way to keep the status board running, to keep this thing from timing out if you're looking at the status board. The part I haven't figured out yet is how you then can watch other comm log entries popping in here while you do that. So that's kind of an unknown. So bottom line, about every, and I don't know what the timeout is. I think it's about 10 minutes, but I'm trying to confirm that. Every so often, hit a screen refresh while you're in the comm log. If you haven't been making any entries, hit a screen refresh. And if it's timed out, you'll get a login to eServices, and you'll log in and it'll take you right back to where you were. So that's one way to test, is just do a refresh, and then you can spot check if it's logged you out, and then get logged in time to make the next log entry. So here's one of the completed position report from that entry I had up there before, when I entered in 40 and then minutes and decimal minutes and the degrees and decimal minutes. And right here it's in decimal degrees, you know, full degrees in the decimal, full degrees in the decimal. This is what the position report looks like when it pops up as a completed entry, completed log entry. So here's a picture of the status board that the Air Ops branch director and maybe operations and probably the IC are looking at. And these are all air sorties here. Generally, it will be a mixture of air sorties and ground sorties. The status board updates the status board for all air and ground units because they're field units, and we want to keep track of them. So here we have sortie Alpha 66, November 323 Charlie Papa. And it is orange because it is late in reporting. And after it's late for about 10 minutes, it goes red, which means it's overdue. Gray means they've completed a current position report or an ops normal check. And make sure everybody mute your microphones because there's one or two microphones unmuted and we're getting some background noise. Down here in yellow are those planned sorties that have not departed yet. See, there's no departure times on here. So when you update your entry, then either every 30 minutes or every hour, whatever is programmed in for the ops normal requirements, you will update something from orange to gray when they actually do their position report or ops normal report, or you have your last conversation with them on the radio. So here's the note on the times again. The choice of time zone used for the mission, local or Zulu, again is decided by the incident commander. We've learned, and we heard in our introduction by Colonel Hess today, that we've got a compliance inspection from the Air Force coming up next year. We learned this the hard way on a couple of compliance inspections over the last couple of years. The status board was showing overdue on a couple of aircraft, but we had duly recorded their ops normal checks on time. So what in the world is going on? Well, we had GMT selected in the WMIRS, and for whatever reason, when GMT is selected, it scrambles the poor brains in WMIRS, and it doesn't associate the time of the last comm check with the time that the comm check is due from the aircraft or the ground team on the status board. If we select local time in WMIRS, that works just fine. It could be standard time or daylight time. So that keeps our status board updated correctly when we've got local time selected in WMIRS. We're going to get finished a little early today. Good. So again, here we've got an overdue. It's been more than however many minutes, 30 or 60, depending on whatever's programmed into the mission, since the last report from the ground team on sortie G14, and we're wondering where they are, or the mission commander's wondering where they are, but they probably reported in on time. So use local time to prevent that problem. So again, here's some references on correct comm logs made by various people in the most recent Gold Pointer 3 mission. So any questions, suggestions, or hints of things you've found that help you in running with the comm log in WMIRS? Any thoughts from those of you out there?
Mike, if I could mention one real quick, this is Tom again.
Please.
You left out one of the most important features on the whole thing, and that's the edit option for those who have fingers that don't type
okay.
well.
Yeah, let me see if I can go back and see that. Okay, I don't remember where the edit button is. Do you, Tom?
Keep going. If you go back towards the end, it was right there. You had one. There you go, just right there. You can see the edit button.
Oh yeah, edit on the log entry. Yeah, yeah. Go ahead and talk to us about that.
Well, I've learned from experience that my fingers and my computer don't necessarily coordinate well with each other, and you'll type something and then you'll hit the enter button, and then when you look at your comm entry, you find out, oh gee, I got the wrong call sign, or more often than not, the time of the actual entry is it records the time that you actually hit the button as opposed to the time the comm entry was really made for. So I have to go back in and click the edit button, and then I can go in. It gives the whole thing back to me, and then I can go back and edit whatever I want to edit, and then click on the submit button again, and it will fix that. I do an awful lot of editing.
You know, in fact, I'm going to go back here, because what you'll do is get a screen that looks like this after you've hit the edit button, because then instead of just hitting submit, you'll get this button that says update and return to comm log. So that's a really good comment, Tom. Thanks for adding that, because it's really easy to make mistakes, or sometimes we'll get behind on the WMIRS log entries and we'll find we're 20 minutes behind and we're making a report from an aircraft, And we don't want to make it an hour and 20 minutes before the next one's due. So we'll catch that when the log entry pops up. We'll say, oh my gosh, I forgot to update the time. And to Tom's point, we can go back and hit that edit button, put in the correct time or anything else that needs to be corrected here, and then hit update and return to Comm Log. So thanks for that comment. That was right on. One thing, tell me one thing you cannot do. Anyone with the edit button. What's one thing you can't do? You can't delete the log entry. You can't delete it.
Oh,
You can edit it and then, in the remarks say NA or incorrect entry, but you can't delete the log entry. You can only edit it.
I've got a question on that.
Yes, please. And who's
Okay.
speaking? Because I'm sorry, I can't see names.
Okay, this is Sergeant Marcus, Tech Sergeant Marcus. Okay, when we were doing a paper log and we needed to make a correction, we would line through and then make the change and initial it. Can anyone else change the line you put in other than yourself?
I think they can.
And what indication is it that you didn't change it, but someone else did?
That's a really good question. I don't know if it updates to you or if it keeps the original person on there, but I'm going to make a note to research that question. Number one, who can make the change? And then if a change is made, who is listed for the change? So thanks for those questions, Sergeant Marcus.
Right.
I'm going to.
I've got one.
No, that's fine. We got time. So I'm going to make a note of those and research that and get messages back to you and anyone else that's interested, because that's a fair question. The one thing it won't do, it doesn't do the line through entry. It just has you update the entry. So go ahead with your other questions.
Okay, what tagline are you using for Wheels Up?
I didn't understand the words, sorry. There's a little distortion on your audio.
Yes, there always is. How do you list Wheels Up time?
Actual time of departure.
Okay.
ATD.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, if we go back to this pull down menu, ATD, the third entry here, actual time of departure.
Okay. Let's see. One more. This can be done, say, with the MRO or the MSA entering these pieces of information.
Yes.
And now the status board is in the other room with the incident commander. Is that correct?
Well, typically, or it could be at their home office or wherever they're located, because they're online.
Okay, so they'll see it no matter where they're at.
They will see that. Oh yeah, they will log in, and anybody can log into this from any location that has internet access and see this information.
Okay.
Mike, if I can interrupt real quick, just on your left slide there, you can see a status board on your left home. You can select that from home and see what the status is.
Okay. Very good. Very good answers. Thank you.
Now, well, good questions too. Now, something else that I don't see happening very often when I see actual time of arrival or actual time of departure, particularly on actual time of arrival, I'll see an aircraft, I'll see an entry for, wheels down, actual time of arrival, but the log entry never says where the aircraft arrived. Now, if the aircraft is not coming back to home base and they're off refueling somewhere, you go back over the log, and unless you pull up the ADSB map or the spot map, you don't know in hindsight where the aircraft is, or an hour or two later, on a really busy mission. So another hint is when you're recording actual time of arrival or actual time of departure, put the location here in remarks. Like Cap 4359 reports wheels down at 12:45 Mountain Daylight Time. Where? Well, KSGC. Oh, okay. So just throw in the airport in the remarks just to make it a very complete log for situational awareness for everybody, because if we have an aircraft that's flying back from Four Corners on a COVID support mission and they decided to stop and refuel at Cedar City, and we see wheels, actual time of departure, how do we know they're not back at home base unless we go research the sortie number, with the departure and arrival points? Somebody could see that and say, okay, that aircraft's back, we're good to go home for the day. And they're getting ready to take off to come back to Salt Lake or to Spanish Fort. So just for situational awareness for everybody, I think it's a nice idea to put the airport in here on or location for ground team comings and goings. Okay, other questions, please.
I've got one more.
Sure, please.
Okay. So we've got the radio room, and one radio is working with the aircraft. Another radio is working with the ground teams.
Okay.
Can we have two people operating comm logs, and will they both appear on the IC's status board?
Okay. It all has to do with who's logged into the system. So if you have a busy mission and you have multiple stations logged in, you can have two people sitting side by side, or you can have one in one location and one in another, one assigned to log ground sorties and another, talk to ground teams and log that. Another person at another station assigned to talk to aircraft and log that. As long as they're individually logged into WMIRS and signed into the mission, any log entry that each person makes will be referenced back on this left-hand column here, the timestamp, who it is that made that log entry, and over here on location, where that person is located that makes the log entry. So it'll always refer to who made the log entry, regardless of where they are, as long as they're logged in to WMIRS and as long as they're logged into the mission. Does that make sense?
Yes, but another thing is, how do we know if the IC has seen the message?
You don't. That's a good question. You'll assume they're watching the status board, but they don't go in and acknowledge every single mission they get. They just look at the status board, and then they'll ping you. They'll generally, first thing they'll do is they'll ping the radio operators to say, hey, have we heard from this aircraft? Or hey, we need to get a message to this aircraft. Or what did they say their fuel state was? So yeah, we don't have confirmation that the IC sees it, but Major Carver, are you logged in today, or Colonel Wellman? I need an IC on the line here.
Well, I'm an IC for Illinois Wings, Colonel Hiles, if that helps.
Oh, thank you. Go ahead and answer the question if you would.
So there is no way, it doesn't flag or anything. What we can do is we can select which offices we see messages from on the unit log. So I could uncheck like planning, ops, and everything, and just leave the comm section if I wanted to focus on what messages from the comm. I might have like an MSA do that for me.
Great. Hey, thanks for jumping in with that comment. I appreciate that.
Well, Sergeant Marcus is one of mine, so I got to help him out here.
That's excellent.
Then I've got to believe you.
There's something from a fellow with an internet connection for more than 50 miles from home, right?
Yes.
Okay, hey, thanks for jumping in. Any other comments, questions, or suggestions on the comm log? Well, I hope that everybody got at least, even though you're a comm log expert, I hope that somebody learned at least one thing today that you can take out and use on the next exercise or mission. And as you come up with suggestions or hints, please throw them in to ops or to comm here at Utah Wing, and let us employ that in the training and the information we share with everybody else. Because, just from the folks that popped in the last couple of minutes, we learn by doing and we learn by sharing. And boy, the business of sharing best practices can always help us all move farther and move faster in keeping people safe and keeping the mission up to date, so that we can do a good job of representing exactly what happened on the mission. So thanks for joining us today. I hope you enjoy the rest of the festivities taking place today. Thanks to Lieutenant Michael Dyke for being the IT brains behind the conference setup today. Thanks to the others in the Wing Training Department for putting together Wing Conference. Thanks to you for joining in, and feel free to pop in with any questions or suggestions by email after the fact. And I owe Sergeant Marcus a couple of answers on who can make a change and who's listed on the change. So good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining today.
Thanks very much, and really enjoyed it.
Good brief, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Mike. Good presentation.
Hey, thank you very much for jumping in today.
We'll talk to you later.
Good to hear from you again, Donna.